Started. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Rowland. I'm the state coordinator for 21st Century, and this is welcome to our office hours meeting. This is one of many office hours meetings that we are having to discuss the Cohort 27 grant that's upcoming. And really, these meetings are just super casual. There's not really a set agenda or PowerPoint presentation or anything like that. It is just an opportunity for you to ask questions about the grant, to receive some clarification about any things that you might be confused about. I don't really have, normally I start these meetings by sharing any kind of new information I have for you guys, and I don't really have anything new to share from our last office hour meeting. The RFA is still being looked at, and little things being found that have to keep being revised. Usually it's like a grammatical error or a typo or something like that. But hopefully, I'm hoping we might have it out maybe by the end of next week. Is fingers crossed, prayer said. Hopefully, we'll get that out to you soon. But as soon as it's been released to the public, we will make sure it will be sent out to all the superintendents. It'll be publicly released, but we'll also make sure that we send a copy of that to everybody who has joined the listserv. If you have not done that yet, please make sure you do that. That the link to join the listserv is on the homepage of the new 21st Century website. So if you join, I'm not emailing all 21st Century subgrantees and things like that about this grant, just because I don't want to email people if they're not interested in the grant. So if you're interested in the grant, then make sure you've joined that listserv. All right. Other than that, I don't really have anything new to share. So we're just going to open up the floor to questions. You're welcome to either put questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question out loud, however you prefer to do it. This is super casual. So it's just a chance for you to, like I said, ask questions and get clarification on anything about the grant.
I don't necessarily have any. Well, I guess I just want clarity.
Okay.
The grant application is not open yet,
Mhm.
but we can join the listserv to get information about it as more information becomes available.
Absolutely. So we've started having meetings back in November. There is one, we have been recording these meetings. We had one meeting in particular that I would highly recommend that everybody go and watch if they haven't done so already. It is linked in on from the website, but it would be the RFA informational meeting from November 21st. It's on our YouTube channel. And that was about a 2-hour meeting where I tried my best to go through the RFA as detailed as possible without giving you the RFA, since it's not officially been approved or released, so that you could go ahead and start planning and deciding what you want to do and what kind of activities you want to do, and start your needs assessment. That's definitely what I would recommend sites to be going ahead and working on now, even though the RFA hasn't been released yet, is getting starting to collect data about the needs of your students in your community and your schools that you're going to serve. That's something that you could be doing right now. So I highly recommend to go watch that meeting. And then all the other office hours meetings that we've had have been recorded except for one. And it was because my WebEx box was full and it wouldn't let me empty it. But we didn't have hardly anyone in there that day. It was like right before the holiday. I think we had like maybe 7 people in there, and nobody really asked any questions. So you didn't really miss anything from that one. Thank goodness it wasn't anything super important that we didn't get to record. So, but yeah, so hopefully the grant itself will be released very soon. The plan is for the application to open up online in eGap, which is our grant management system. The goal is February 18th, but I am very skeptical as to whether we're going to be able to meet that goal, just because lately the people that we're not able to make changes to EGAP ourselves. We have a company that we use to do that for us, and they just haven't been providing very quick service and timely service to us lately. And so it's been taking a really long time to get even the smallest of things completed or fixed or updated in EGAP. And so I'm really worried that even though really they can just kind of make a copy of the Cohort 26 application and just make a few wording changes that need to be done, they don't have to build anything new. I'm still a little nervous that it may not be ready by the 18th, but fingers crossed, we're going to keep hoping. And then if we find out it's definitely not going to be ready by then, of course, we'll update our timeline when that time comes. So,
Sounds good.
all
Thank
right,
you.
no problem. Anybody else have questions? Jason, go ahead.
Hey, I had
Hey,
part of my ear on and part of my ear off, so I just heard saying I wanted to verify. The RFA is or isn't gonna be ready by the 14th.
by the 14th of February.
Wasn't it February the 14th? That I might have had the day wrong, but when is it supposed to be released?
Well, we don't really have a date for the RFA release because we just don't, it takes, you know how it is. It takes forever here to get it routed. So we don't really have a specific date for the release of the RFA. Now we do currently have a date for the EGAP application to open as February the 18th. But again, um, I'm skeptical as to whether that's going to happen or not because it is just taking a really long time to get any changes made in EGAP right now. Um, they've been sent what we need to be done, but again, it's just not going well as far as them. I'm just nervous about them building the application in time. So we may have to push back further. But we will make sure that whenever we push back, we'll also push back the due date as well, so that everybody has plenty of time to get their application in. Um,
Do
but
you
I
have,
hope that the RFA will be released like in the next week or so.
okay, do you know if EGAP does end up having to be pushed back? Is there like a date that you would potentially notify us? Because we're trying to do our calendars and systems and
Absolutely. So as soon as we find out that they're not going to be able to meet that February 18th deadline, then we'll let everybody know. I just don't know when they'll let us know that. I don't know if they'll send it, I don't know what their communication has been extremely lacking. And so as soon as if we're told that they're not going to be able to meet that deadline, we will go through the schedule again and reschedule everything and push everything back. But we'll let you guys know as soon as we know something.
I totally understand. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody have any questions about programming or what's allowed, what's not allowed? Anything like that? I'm seeing a lot of people who've been with 21st Century before, so a lot of names look very familiar. I am working on updating our FAQ document. I've been working on that on and off for the last couple of days between other duties. But I'm hoping to get that to Kelly to put up on the website sometime, maybe hopefully by tomorrow. Maybe today. Well, I doubt. I think she leaves early. I think she leaves very soon, so it's probably going to be tomorrow before that gets up. But any questions that have come in from sites, like by email or things like that, I've tried to make sure I include in this frequently asked questions document so that everybody can get the answers. And then I also took last year's document and included some questions from last year that I thought may still be beneficial for people to see the answers to for this year's grant. So I'm almost finished going through it and updating it, and we will get that uploaded to the website under the Cohort 27 information as soon as possible. I'm trying to think of any that I might need to go over with you guys. Let's see, until somebody asks me a question. Let's see.
When we go to the website,
Mm-hmm.
we go under Cohort 27 to find the Q&A.
Yeah, it's not there yet. I haven't uploaded
Oh,
it
okay.
yet. Yeah,
Oh,
it'll be
okay,
uploaded
okay.
probably tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
It's okay. Yeah, I meant to have already had it uploaded before now, but it's just I can't seem to get everything done. There's not enough hours in the day. I haven't left work this week before 8 o'clock, a single night this week. So. Any other questions? So I had a question come from an email. I think it was either today or yesterday. All the days are running together right now, but they were asking about if there was a place where they could upload charts or tables like for data. I'm assuming as maybe part of their needs assessment. And my reply to that was there are places that you can upload extra documents outside of the ones that are required. There's an area in the related document section where you can put additional documents. And then there's also, it's called the LEA document library that you can add things to as well. I do want to just caution people about that. For one thing, the RFA does state to not add additional, it does say not to provide additional information other than what is asked for in the actual application. But I don't have a problem with you uploading maybe a chart or data that helps answer one of the questions within the application. Just keep in mind though, it's the rubrics that have already been developed for the grant reviewers um, will not instruct those grant reviewers to go look for documentation outside of what is required of you. And so you're really kind of at the mercy of the grant reviewer. I can say in training, that you're welcome, that if somebody references an upload of data, you're welcome to go look at that. There's nothing wrong with doing that, and encourage them to do that even, but it doesn't mean that they're going to listen and do it, right? Because it's a virtual training, and, often find that when we do those long virtual trainings, people just space out, or they're doing something else, and maybe they might not hear me say that. So I wouldn't depend on it. I would be careful about putting something super important for your grant as an additional attachment that the grant reviewer may or may not go look at. So you can do that if you want to, as long as it's pertaining to a question that's been asked. But just understand that you're kind of at the mercy of the grant reviewer, and as to whether they have the time or willing, or take the time to go look at the data outside of what they've been instructed to look at. So just wanted to point that out to everyone. Use my wait time for a minute, see if anybody has any questions. Okay, so this is a question from last year, but it pertains to this year as well. On the cover page, which you do have access to already, we've already uploaded that on the website. It does ask for a project manager signature. And so the question was, is it the program director that signs that, or who is supposed to sign that cover sheet? It's the Form 1 cover sheet. And the person who's actually supposed to sign that document is the person who is submitting the grant. So it would be the person who, if we had a question about the grant, or let's say maybe something was uploaded incorrectly and we wanted to call and address it, we would know who to call. So it could be the program director, it could be a grant writer that somebody hired to write their grant. We don't like to know that. We don't want to know if somebody's doing that. But it's whoever is submitting the grant for that applicant. So that's the name or the person's information that we need on that, only on that cover sheet, the Form 1, and it asks that for the project manager. So when we say project manager, we're talking about the person who is actually submitting the grant application. See if I can think of other things. So there was a question last year, I think still pertains, about the program director. Lots of questions about program directors, and we still have some situations where with program directors where there may be doing tasks that's not necessarily what's intended. You can choose your job description for your program director, but keep in mind that that person is really supposed to be a supervisor over all programming, right? They are supposed to visit sites and monitor and make sure programs are running according to the federal and state and program guidelines. They're also the person who is like our main contact from the State Department or from any of the partners that we work with that reach out to sites. That would be the main contact person. And they're the person responsible for making sure that documents are uploaded when they're supposed to be, that if something is supposed to be turned in by a certain date, they're responsible for making sure things are turned in and things like that. But really, the day-to-day, what occurs at the site really should be kind of handled more by the site coordinator and other administrators that could be helped. You can hire data coordinators, you can hire like a financial people to help with the finance portions. But really a program director, and it even said, I've even gone back to like cohort 16 and 17's grants. Typically, especially for like an LEA, a program director in the past has been like a federal programs director who part of their job is to help supervise 21st century, or maybe a curriculum director or a CSFO or something like that. It's really more of a part-time job. Now we've gone into the grant about saying, if you're planning to run 5 or more sites, then it can be a full-time job. But we have like I would say one of our most successful programs in the state is Tuscaloosa. And I think they have like 10 or 12 grants among the 2 cohorts, and they have a program director that does all of those sites and other things with the LEA as well. And they run really, really well. So the program director is not really intended to be boots on the ground there for the entire program. They're really more of a supervisory position. So I like to kind of compare the program director to like the superintendent of a school system, right? And then you've got your site coordinator, who is more like the principal of a school. They're the ones who really run the program. They're the boots on the ground. They're the ones that are going to be collecting information and helping plan curriculum and things like that, typically. And then other additional administrative type positions can be hired to help them with that job. But but just kind of keep that in mind. You can, if you, this is new this year, you can hire, if you're going to have more than 5 sites, you can hire a assistant program director to kind of help with the program director duties if you would like. And if your budget permits you to do so, but still they're an assistant. You need one person who is like the boss, right? You need that one person who is the decision maker for the program, one person who speaks for the program, one person who, if it came down to it, they're the ones who are responsible for making final decisions and for making sure that things run the right way. So if you're going to have multiple sites, you can't have like one program director there that is over a few, and then another program director that's over some other ones, because then you would have 2 bosses in charge, and that would not, that could cause issues. That could cause problems. What if you don't agree with the way things that should be done, or how things should be turned in, or whatever? So, one person in charge that's more of a supervisory position. And then you've got your administrative positions that are really there on a day-to-day basis and helping to make sure the program, they're the boots on the ground. They're at the program during the whole time, making sure things run smoothly from day to day. So just wanted to clarify that, because we still have we have issues with people sites trying to pay a program director a full-time salary to just be over one site when they also have a site coordinator there, that kind of thing. So we've been trying to kind of watch that a little bit more carefully and closely and make sure that what they're being paid to do is reasonable and necessary. So just wanted to point that out. And just also note that the 30% cap for administration is not, that's a cap. That is like the most you can spend on administrative funds and indirect costs combined. Okay. But it's not like the goal. To me, it's always a red flag when you have certain organizations who always spend the exact 30% amount on administrative. Doesn't matter the size of their program, doesn't matter how many programs that they're running, they figure out a way to make sure that that full 30% is spent on admin funds. And to me, that's kind of sketchy. That's kind of a red flag thing. Now, sometimes it's needed. Sometimes those full 30% is needed because you've running a lot. You've got a big program. You need to bring in extra people to help with the bookkeeping and the data uploads and the financial and all that. And then you may have some higher you may need to do some indirect costs, or some professional development that also falls under the admin. But just understand that it's not like, oh, I can do whatever I want with these administrative funds as long as I don't go over the cap. That's not really the way it's supposed to be and the way it is now. So just wanted everyone to keep that in mind. All right, I'm going to be quiet for a minute, see if anybody has any questions.
Hi, Amanda. This is Angela. I just had a quick question.
Sure.
So, Fairfield City Schools, this is our first time applying as a LEA. We're doing it with a community partner. So we found a
Okay.
community partner. One question I have, when you're speaking about the 30% cap, just so that I'm clear, that's on the whole grant. Is that 30% of the whole grant, or is it for each year allocation when you say the 30% cap?
That's for each year's allocation. So when you get this grant, the amount that you'll get that every year for 4 years if you get the grant. So let's just say you qualify for the highest amount, the 350,000, and then maybe even additional 20,000 to help with transportation. So let's say you get that each year. you can only spend 30% of that $350,000 on administrative and indirect costs together. There's a cap there that you're not supposed to go over for those types of costs. But
Okay.
yeah, so that's a yearly thing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great question.
Amanda, while we're on admin,
Hey.
if you wouldn't mind, hey, thank you. Go over one more time. Let me make sure I'm clear on this about what goes under admin as far as professional development. The fees, the reimbursement to the site directors or the program director, what all actually goes under admin for the professional development that
Okay,
goes under that
so
30% cap? Thank you.
perfect. Yes. So any professional development cost for an admin position goes under admin expenses. So that wasn't the way it was when I first came in, but that's the way we do it in all federal programs is part of the admin costs fall under the admin professional development falls under admin costs. Doesn't fall under 2215, which is professional development, because that's your staff professional development. So your admin professional development, if it's an admin position, so it would be your program director, your site coordinator, if you're going to have a bookkeeper or a data person, those all fall under admin positions. Then if they go to any kind of professional development, then whatever costs, whether it's the registration fees, the travel, hotel, whatever, that is going to be put under admin costs. Yeah. So this is a question from last year, but I can go over it. Talking about equitable services or working with private schools. And so keep in mind that one of the things that you're supposed to do if you're going to apply for this grant is you have to also, when you're doing your needs assessment, you also have to reach out to any private schools that are located within the attendance area of the schools that you plan to serve with your 21st century program. Okay. So whether you're a CBO or an LEA or FBO or whatever, whether you're a private organization or you're an LEA, if you say we're going to serve students at these public schools, which you have to do, or you have to have a partnership with an LEA, so you have to serve public school students. You also have to look at any private schools that are located in the attendance area of those schools you plan to serve, and you have to reach out to them and consult with them about their needs. That consultation can be as simple as, hey, we're intending to apply for the 21st century grant. Is that something that you might be interested in participating in? A lot of times they're going to say no. There's a lot of private schools who don't want to have anything to do with public funding. You know, they have their own thing going, but then they might say, yeah, we might be interested. And at that point is when you say, okay, what would be the needs of your students? What would you like to see in an after school program? And you're supposed to kind of consult them on what the needs would be if they did participate. Okay. Then if you get the grant, you'll have to reach back out to them and let them know we got the grant. This is what we're going to be offering. Your students are welcome to apply to participate in the 21st century program. And you do have to make sure it's equitable. So if you release, you can't like put the application out for your public school students first, and then whatever's left, whatever spots open are left over, then reach out to your private schools and say, hey, we have 10 spots available. Do any of your kids want to do that? That's not allowed. You have to make sure that if you're going to do an application for the program, that that application is sent out to your public and your private school students at the same time, and that everybody has an opportunity to apply. Now, you are allowed to target specific students first, but it can't be based on whether they go to public or private. So let's say that you really you have a need in the schools that you're going to serve have a very strong need in third grade math. That is a huge issue that's going on, and you want to make sure that students who are failing or who are not doing well in third grade math have access to join the program first. You can set up that kind of thing, but you also need to do the same thing for any kids at the private school that are maybe potentially not doing well in third grade math. So it just has to be equitable when you open that up. And some sites end up with a waiting list. We've got some sites that they serve way more kids than they probably should be, but they're awesome. They have a really great program and have a lot of participation and have a waiting list. And then we have some sites that are dying to get kids in there and having a hard time getting kids to participate in the after school program, and are looking for ways to get more kids to join. Just keep in mind that if you do have the situation where you have a waiting list, you have to make sure that it's equitable to everybody. You can't put the private school kids on the waiting list and let the public school kids in before the private. Okay. Yeah, I got a question. Okay. If the LEA is a charter school and is serving students from all over the city, do all private schools in the city have to be consulted, or just ones with a certain proximity of the school? So charter schools don't have to do equitable services. I'm not really sure why, but we haven't made our charter schools do that. So that is not something. If you're a charter school, then you don't have to do that. Because your attendance area is undefined. Yep. Lucky y'all. Yeah. Okay. What about conversion charters? Jason, I do not know what that is. A conversion charter. You're gonna have to fill me in on that one. I haven't heard of that before.
There's 3 charter schools in our district that are MPS schools, but they're charter schools.
Oh.
I was assuming, because I'm doing outreach based on location, but should I just not worry about it?
Well, let me ask you this. Are those 3 charter schools, are they in EGAP as their own LEA, or are they under MPS?
They're under MPS.
Then I think that they would have the same rules as everybody else. Do they have to
Okay,
provide
let's-
equitable services?
Say that again?
Do they have to provide equitable services for the other title
I mean,
programs?
we do as a district, yes.
Okay, then yeah, I would think that it would meet the same, it would have the same rules and requirements as the LEA. The other charter schools that are considered an LEA, they don't have to do equitable services for whatever reason.
That's what I thought. Okay, I just
yeah.
wanted to check.
Right. And I think it's just because most of those do serve such a large attendance area that's not defined, that I guess that's the reasoning behind it, because those students are typically receive equitable services from the schools that do have a defined region. So now if your charter schools within NPS don't have a defined region, then maybe not. I don't know. That might be something we have to look into. That's the first time that anybody's ever asked me that question.
I think we're the only district that has it.
Okay.
So. But
Yeah.
I'm going to go under the assumption, unless you let me know differently, to follow the same guidance that we would as MPS.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so. No, that one's a really good question. Because if those three schools don't have defined attendance borders other than being within MPS, I don't know. I don't know.
It's it's a mixed interesting. You can still be zoned, but then it's open beyond the zone.
I gotcha. Okay.
So I'm just going to assume the zoned area unless I hear differently.
Okay. All right. If I have anything else on here. Mm, let's see if there's anything else. I think I've talked about this before, but I'm just desperate to talk about something. So one question was about MOUs and contracts and whether it's okay to use the LEA's board approved contract forms. My answer to that would be yes, with caution, because you want to make sure that it's a contract that is written for federal spending, federal funding. I think some LEAs have been good about creating something that has all the required federal provisions, but some may have some of them, but not all of them. Maybe they had it done at one time, but there's been things that have been updated, but haven't necessarily been updated in that federal in that LEA's contract. So you can use it, that is fine, but just understand that when you turn it into us, and this is mainly we ask to see contracts mostly for purchase services. So when you have somebody coming in and teaching a program or something like that, then we are going to check it to make sure it does have all of the required federal provisions in there. And then also the details that are supposed to be in there. So the safest thing to do is to use the template that we give to you, because that was provided to us by Bruman, by Brustein and Manazovit, who are lawyers that are experts in federal funding and federal programs. So we know for sure that they have all of the updated information in there. That's the safest thing to do. But again, if you want to use your LEA's template or contract, board approved contract, I would highly suggest that you compare it with the template that we provide and make sure that everything is in there that's supposed to be in there. Because this past year we've had to turn back a lot of applications because they did not have the correct items in their contract or MOU template. So again, this was something that a couple of years ago we didn't require. We just had a very basic template that was provided. But then once we find out that when you know better, you do better. So once we figure out that we weren't doing what we were supposed to be doing, we had to fix it and have templates created and make sure that we were doing things the right way. So just want to point that out. I may have already talked about this before too. Sorry, everything starts to run together. But I always have people asking if they can have 2 schools on one grant or 2 sites on one grant. And the answer to that is technically yes, you can, but we really don't like it. We haven't made it where you can't do that yet because we do understand that there are some really small LEAs that in order for them to qualify for the funding, they may have to combine 2 schools in one grant, like their elementary and their high school or something like that. But it does create issues because number one, you've got to stretch, and now have to stretch your admin. You still have a 30, so you got one grant that's covering basically 2 different schools and 2 different programs located at 2 different schools. Well, because you've got kids at 2 different schools, you now have to have 2 site coordinators, one at each site, because you need to have an administrator there that is in charge at each one. So now your admin funds have to be stretched to cover a program director or part of a program director salary and 2 site coordinators. Also, you have to figure out, you're filling out one application, and especially if you're doing two groups of totally different kids, like you've got elementary kids and high school kids on the same grant. Are your program goals and objectives really the same for your elementary kids as your high school, right? So figuring that out is not easy to do. Some of them are going to be the same because they're kind of general across the board, but your elementary age students should have different needs than your high school students. And so you're having to try to figure out a way to write this application so that you're meeting the needs of both in one application. So that's another thing that we don't really like to see. Also, your external evaluator. There is a limit to what you can pay your external evaluator, $6,000 or 3% of the grant, whichever one is less, with this new RFA. And so you now have to try to find an external evaluator who's willing to look at 2 sites for the price of 1, which is not always easy to do, or not always easy to find a really good external evaluator who's willing to do that. So it really does kind of stretch your funds thin and cause issues. And so we would prefer to see you not to do that. We haven't said that you can't do it, but we prefer for you to just apply for 2 grants, 1 grant for one school and 1 grant for the other, and go that route. I do understand that does put you at risk because one may get it and the other one may not, but it does cause some financial and logistic issues when you try to cover 2 schools with one grant. I also want to point out that anytime the RFA, I try to be careful about this, but if it says, like, for example, with the program directors, if it's when you're talking about that a program director that's over 5 or more sites could be full-time. It doesn't have to be, but could be. When I say sites, in that case, I'm talking about grants. So if you have 2 schools that fall under 1 grant, that counts as 1 of those sites, not 2, right? So just keep that in mind, that it's really when we say sites, a lot of times we're really talking about a grant. Even if you've got 2 sites that fall under that 1 grant, that's really what we're referring to. So keep that in mind as well. Stretches your admin staff really thin to do that. Okay. Any other questions? I think most of the people here who have been with 21st Century for a while, but I do want to just reiterate that, because it was a question from, I think, last year that was on our Q&A about how do you get reimbursed, or how does the funding work? So do keep in mind that this program is on a reimbursement basis. And so one thing that's super important if you get the grant is that once you get the grant, you don't have immediate access to funds. You have to, so when your grant has been approved, it means that grant readers have read it, they scored it high enough where you were awarded the grant, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that was written in your application is allowable, right? You may have written a fantastic proposal and application, but you may have some things in there that are not allowable expenses or were coded incorrectly or whatever. There may be some things in there that even though your application itself was approved and scored high enough for you to get the grant, we still have to go back and check to make sure that you meet all of the federal and state requirements and program requirements. And so the next step, once you've gotten the grant, is that our specialists go in and actually review the application carefully and look for anything that needs to be fixed or removed, or maybe is not considered, maybe renegotiated. It may be, an expense that's not really reasonable or necessary. So we go through that, and then we send you that feedback and tell you the things that have to be revised before you can have an approved application. It's really important that you do that quickly, because until you can't access your funds until you have an officially final approved application. And so we had some subgrantees that got the grant this last time that kind of took their time to do the revisions that we sent. Like we sent the revisions that needed to be made, and some people took care of it right away and did great, and some just kind of, I guess they maybe just didn't think it was that big of a rush, and they waited a while, and then next thing you know, they're running out of money and they need money and they can't draw down any funds because they haven't made the revisions and gotten an officially final approved application. So it's really important that if you get the grant, to go ahead and get that done, so that you can start drawing down funds. So the way that works is that you purchase things, you spend things, and then you submit an ES2, which is your expenditure report, and then it's either approved or not approved, and funds are allowed to be drawn down. Now, we'll say this: for CBOs and charter schools, we do now have a rule that we've always had the rule for CBOs, but we added charter schools because we saw there was an issue with those, is that we actually want to see your expenses. We want to see your invoices, your PARs, your expenditures, and we're not trying to pick on CBOs or charters or anything like that. It's just we have found that they tend to not be as familiar with federal rules and regulations when it comes to procurement and purchasing things, and so they just need to be checked a little bit more carefully, so that we can make sure that you're not violating any laws or doing anything that you're not supposed to be doing. And so we do actually check those. We go through the expenditures, make sure they match your ES2, and then we approve it, and then accounting allows you to draw down the funds. And that's how it works with both CBOs and charter schools. Now, if we feel like there might be an issue occurring, some red flag has happened, we also reserve the right to ask an LEA to submit their invoices and receipts and things like that if we feel like something may not be being done correctly. So just understand, and we've been encouraged to do that by Dr. Killingsworth, who is over federal programs. We have been encouraged to just randomly every now and then check our LEA ran subgrantees the same way that we do our CBOs and our charters. We haven't really done that a whole lot just because we've been so busy. The workload has been crazy here, especially since we don't have any partners. We don't have a partner right now helping us with the work, and so we haven't really done that, but we could do it at any time. So just wanted to point that out as well. But it is a reimbursement basis, and so the faster you get your application approved, the better. And but you do need to have like a few months worth of funds to kind of get you started from the beginning, so that you can get you can make purchases and then get reimbursed for them. All right. I can't think of anything else to cover. So unless anyone else has any questions, then we can go ahead and end the meeting early, but I'm gonna at least stick around until 4:30. Sometimes we have shy people that want to wait till most people get out before they ask a question, which is totally fine. But thank you for joining us. Our next RFA office hours will be January the 30th. No, sorry, I take that back. The next thing on the timeline is January 30th, the intent to apply form. If you have not done that yet, there's a link to a Google, I think it's a Google form. It may be a Microsoft form. I don't know. It's some sort of online form for you to fill out. There's a link to it in the timeline, which is on our website. And we ask that if you're planning to apply for the grant, that you do fill that intent to apply form out and let us know that you're applying and how many sites you plan to apply for, or how many grants you want to apply for, so that we'll know how many peer reviewers we need to find. So it's not something that you have to do. It is an optional thing, but we do really appreciate it if you do it, so that we make sure that we hire enough peer reviewers. And then our next 21st Century office hours meeting will be on February 3rd from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I've tried to kind of alternate these office hour meetings from a little bit earlier in the day to a little bit later, because I know some people go home by a certain time and may not want to stay late, and then vice versa. Some people are maybe teaching, earlier in the day and can't do a meeting until later. And so that's why I tried to schedule them so that we offer them at multiple times throughout the day. I don't do a whole lot of morning meetings because I'm not a morning person. Anybody who knows me well knows that. I'm definitely a night person. So my brain is not functioning very well early in the morning. So most of the meetings are going to be in the afternoon. But you're always welcome to reach out and ask questions via email or give us a call, and we'll help you out as much as we can. Great. Everybody's sticking around, but nobody's asking questions.
Amanda, Angela.
Yes.
So
Hey.
just clarity purposes, because again, I know I'm the newbie here.
That's okay.
What I'm hearing is that, so if I have 4 sites in my district, technically I need to submit 4 grants.
Yes,
One
that's
for
correct.
each site. Okay, so that's what I just wanted to clarify. I thought so, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yes,
So I would do an application for each site, their own
that's
application
correct.
for each site, and then all of the program evaluations and things of that nature would be uploaded for each site. Each site would
That's
have.
right.
Okay.
So when you go into EGAP, you'll go into one place.
Yes.
But then you'll create your sites in that EGAP. So you'll have one EGAP application for your LEA, or I'm not
Yes.
sure I can't remember if you're from a CBO or an LEA. If you're from a CBO, we would create you one just like we would for an LEA. And then one of the first things you do when you go in there, you put in your information, but then you're going to put in your individual, however many grants you're applying for, how many sites you're applying for. You'll put that
Okay.
in, and then you'll do basically all the rest of it for each application that you're submitting.
Okay. Yes. And I'm an LEA, and I'm also
Okay.
the federal programs person, so I'm familiar with EGAT. So I
Yes.
understand. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And I think that's why some people want to combine two sites into one as well, because they don't want to do 2 different applications, because it's a lot of work. I get that it's a lot of work. But again, you can get more money if you do 2 separate ones for one thing, and it really does help with making sure that your funds aren't overstretched by just having a separate grant for each site. And then we really don't like it if you want to do like 2 sites that are nowhere near each other. That it makes sense sometimes to do 2 sites that are like on the same campus, that are really, really close together, that are within like a really small community. That makes sense. But if you're completely far away from each other, and really have nothing to do with each other, then you really shouldn't be submitting a grant with those two sites in just one application. So. Alrighty. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording. Again, I'm gonna stick on for a few more minutes.